Welcome to the webinar. It is 12:01. We're going to hold tight for just another 60, 90 seconds here. A lot of people are still joining. And so as that number keeps ticking up, then I'll watch that pretty closely and we'll get started here in a minute or two. Still quite a few people joining here. We'll give it another 30, 45 seconds or so. Okay, looks like we've got a pretty solid audience, but it's slowing down as far as people joining. So we'll get started. I'm the host here, so I'm just here to introduce our primary presenter, Isaac Barlow. So Isaac comes from the construction industry. We brought him on because he's got a ton of experience in managing, hiring, owning a lot of different companies. He currently sits on the board for multiple construction companies. He's the owner of multiple construction companies. He's the managing partner of a big project that's a $2.5 billion project in southern Utah called Tech Ridge. And he also is the CEO and founder and visionary of BusyBusy, the software company that services construction. So tapping into that experience, understanding that the topic that we wanted to talk about today is all about hiring, retaining, and building talent in the industry. Isaac has not only done it himself, but he's worked with a lot of other leadership groups and helped people scale organizations that go all the way from 2 employees up to hundreds. And so we're excited to have him on and talk about what we can all do as individual companies to continue to improve our cultures and attract that talent and retain them. So we'll let you go, Isaac, and then at the end we'll have some questions and answers to come in from the group. So feel free to send in your questions while you're thinking about them, and I'll read them at the end and we'll go over them.
Awesome. So you wanted to just get right onto the topics as far as hiring and attracting, top talent?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate everybody attending this webinar. It's real exciting to be able to talk to all of you, and especially I'm grateful for all the people that are using BusyBusy. We started BusyBusy for us, for people in the construction industry, so that we would have the information we needed to make those good and profitable decisions, and really so that we can have systems in place that let us focus on revenue producing activities. I just got out of just a couple days ago, we did a podcast with another place, the $1 Million Landscape, and we went over a lot of these same type of questions there. And so I think I'll just kind of hit a few of the main points we talked about there. When you're looking to hire top talent, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, what is top talent to you? And, when I think of top talent for the construction industry, I think of someone that really has their motivations aligned with ownership. If my motivation is to make money, right? I want someone that helps our company make money. That's top talent to me. And the way to think of that is revenue producing activities. And, just to kind of define that term a little bit better, we all know in the construction world, we have the items on our estimate that we bid for, so here's all the items that we're doing on a job site. Here's what we get paid for, but we can always get caught up in all these things that don't produce revenue, like, just busy work and processing and sometimes wasting time, just a whole bunch of things that don't produce revenue. So when I define top talent, I'm talking about people that know how to get the job done and how to make the job go faster, how to produce the revenue for the company. So when you talk about how to hire and attract them, the thing you have to get down to is what does top talent want? What do they want? If I'm taking a wild guess, I'm going to say most of our attendants here are probably top talent yourselves. So if you're the owner of the company or you're a manager, you're one of the people that are leading the company in your space, whether it's from ownership or management, you are probably part of that top talent group of people. And so what would it take to attract you to another company? And this is part of what you've got to think about. And in today's world, especially, it is hard to get talent because everybody out there is hiring and everybody's looking for skilled labor. But you have to be able to offer them something that is unique. And for top talent, typically what's unique is the opportunity to excel. And that's what we want. You know, if you're a high producer, you want the opportunity to excel and you want the opportunity to achieve and get results and produce. And so when you think of setting up your company, it's part of your setup. You know, we often say systems and culture. Those are the two pillars of success within a construction company. And you've got to be able to set up your systems and your culture. So to give you kind of an idea behind how those marry together, let's say if I'm a top talented person that's coming to work for your company, and when I start on day one, I can see that you don't have good tracking systems, you know, whether, you know, using BusyBusy and other mini systems, you don't have good tracking systems. So how do I actually shine? How do I show you what I can do for your company, how much money I can make you, how much revenue I can produce you? Because that's what I want to do. If I'm top talent, I want to show you, this is what I'm producing for you. This is how I'm exceeding expectations and how I'm leading the pack, you might say, and I want to be compensated for that. And so if I don't trust that you have systems, or if I see that you don't have systems in place that allow me to thrive in that way, then oftentimes I'll get discouraged and find somewhere else that has those kind of systems in place. And so don't underestimate, I guess in the construction industry, we'd call it having your shit together. You know, you got to have your shit together for people to want to work with you and for you, because that's what it takes to get to exceed or to excel. In addition, you've got to consider the culture that you create. And part of that culture is that training, that opportunity, that environment that you can, that a top talent person can thrive. And part of your culture is training. Like if I am, you know, motivated, I might not be the top talent out there, but I'm motivated, I'm determined, and I want to succeed. Do you have systems and processes in place to help me succeed, even to train me up, to level me up? You know, I might come in as instead of an A player, maybe I'm coming in as a B player or a C player. Do you have the systems and processes in your company to train me up into becoming an A player? This is also an incredibly important part of a culture, because you need to be able to attract top talent, and you need to be able to create top talent. And so these systems have to be in place. And when you start putting these systems in place, then you know you can allow them to thrive. And then the other thing is you'll start seeing what top talent brings you. That's one of the big reasons that these things marry each other when we talk about systems and culture, is if you don't have the systems in place to help you understand which of your employees are performing at a high rate and which ones are not performing at a high rate, you'll pay them all the same, you'll compensate them all the same, and those who perform high will get discouraged. We have Derek Shakespeare on here hosting this event for us. And Derek, I'm going to throw a question back at you. You know, Derek, I hired Derek about 5 years ago off another company, and Derek is who I would consider top talent. And so I want you to speak to that a little bit. You know, what makes you want to work for a company if you don't think you can thrive? I know you came from another entity that you were struggling with as far as thriving, and I want you to talk about that a little bit, because that is the key. When you talk about attracting top talent, you've got to give them the ability to thrive and to be able to make the money they want to make, be able to succeed. And honestly, you need to be able to have your systems in place enough that you can recognize that top talent as it's succeeding. Because at the end of the day, a huge part of your culture and attracting top talent is recognition. You've got to be able to understand what's happening in your business well enough to recognize it. So if I've got, if I'm running my business poor enough that everything just looks the same to me and everybody seems to function the same, and I judge them all the same, then top talent's not going to thrive there. They want to go somewhere where they can shine, where they can thrive, where they can make money, and they want to be scored. They want to know the score. They want to know what's driving them. Derek, I'm going to throw it back at you for a minute.
Yeah, so that was unexpected. So I guess first I'd start by giving a little context to what you're saying, so that everybody understands. I've been at BusyBusy for 5 years. As Isaac mentioned, he hired me from another organization. So he had headhunted me, sought me out, and as we were having conversations, it was a process. We got to know each other pretty well. I spent a lot of time asking him questions. Fortunate for us, we had a lot of mutual acquaintances. But when Isaac talks about thriving, the interesting thing about thriving is the definition can mean so many things to so many different people. As an organization that I was running before, I was running the sales and marketing, and we were thriving financially. We were in fact, we were the 29th and the 27th fastest growing company in America on the Inc. 500 back-to-back years. So things were going very, very well. But the reason that I considered leaving, as Isaac and I had more and more conversation, is what I consider thriving is that the relationship internally is improving from a trust standpoint and a support standpoint. So when Isaac talks about the ability to keep score, it's not keeping score as this happened and it was negative and this happened and it was positive, but more so from a standpoint of what do you have visibility to and what impact are you making? And with the role that you have, are you contributing to the success of the organization? And do you have visibility to it in a way that you can be proud of the work? I think a lot of times employers are so afraid of giving their employees visibility to the impact that they're making because they feel like it might create too much leverage. But if you're perfectly aligned in a way that they understand that the impact that they're making strengthens the health of the company, that it doesn't create leverage for anybody. It puts everybody on the same page. And so there's a lot that was there as Isaac and I spoke from a trust standpoint, and then a support standpoint. I guess I don't want to take too much of your time, Isaac, because you have a ton of experience here, but I think the thing that would answer this question the best when you talk about thriving and support for everybody on here, you'll appreciate this question. Some of you might think if somebody ever asked you this or said this to you, you would never hire them. But to Isaac's credit, he was humble enough to take this question and respond in a way that I didn't offend him by asking it, and we were on the same page afterwards, and it allowed me to come here and know that I could thrive. So when Isaac and I had met, it was probably the 10th time that we met, and I asked him, Isaac, who do you work for? And again, in this context, we're talking specifically about BusyBusy, and he's sitting there, and it was one of those loaded questions, right? Sometimes people ask you a question and you know that there's a certain answer that they're wanting to hear, and you could see his wheels turning, and he goes, well, I work for our board of directors. I work for our investors. I would say those are the two people the two groups that I work for. Is I work for our board and I work for our investors. And my response to him was, Isaac, if I come there, if I'm coming to BusyBusy to be an executive at your organization, I need you to work for me. And the reason that I need you to work for me is because I need to know that I'm supported in a way that I would never have to be blaming you that I wasn't successful, that I would never say, well, I could have done it if our CEO cared more. I could have done it if our CEO worked harder. I needed to know that he cared and he would be working as much or more than I would. And I gave additional context, and I said, the reason that I say this, and I can say this confidently, and I'm not being selfish in saying it, is every single person that I will hire at BusyBusy as we grow that organization, I work for them. Every person that I hire, I am solely responsible to ensure that they are successful. And that is the conversation that I will have with them as I hire them, is I work for you. And if you have a direct manager, they work for you. And direct relation to that, Isaac works for me, even though he's the CEO and founder, and I'm an executive here, because it's his responsibility to remove barriers so that I can do my job the best way possible. And that's what I would consider the definition of thriving. It's that trust and support that we have established through that process that attracted in your definition, top talent to come to BusyBusy?
No, I like that answer. It's a good answer. And that's a point that, and the reason I started with all this up front is, on our points we want to talk about, we want to talk about how to attract top talent, how to create bonus systems, developing healthy culture, and whether or not new hires are needed. But I want to start with here first, because this is the most important thing. If you think of yourself as a team, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people on this call watch sports, but you think of yourself as a sports team, and it's true. And you think of the coach. Who does the coach work for? The coach works to help train. I mean, the coach is the boss, but his whole job is to help train that talent up to be the most successful version of themselves they can be. And so his focus is always on trying to make them better at the game, better at being team members, better at working. And when you if you think of it with the sports analogy, if you create a really great basketball team or football team, really great players want to play on that team because you're working to make them more successful and help them achieve their maximum potential. And so I like Derek's definition. I think it's right. I think leadership should always have a goal of trying to help those who are working for them achieve their maximum potential. And if that is your goal, you're going to attract the top talent. And in the construction industry, and this is not to harp on it or to be, to denigrate it, I mean, anybody please message me and tell me if I'm wrong here, but there hasn't been a really high bar set here. And so you can stand out really fast if you'll take this advice and say, okay, I'm going to try to maximize the potential of the people working for me. You'll find out that very few focus on this, and that people will quickly start coming to you because you start building that culture where they're attracted to. And again, think of it like a sports team. You're the coach. You're trying to help them succeed and win and get those jobs done, get the projects done, maximize their potential. If you create a bonus system that's great. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But that is the key. So the very foundation of you attracting top talent and attracting more workers, because we always say we want to attract more workers. We've got more work to do, right? So why do I focus on top talent rather than just telling you how to find more people, hire more people, get on the right job boards, that kind of stuff? Because the talent that you want is the workers that can do twice and 3 times the work. I mean, I would rather hire one top talent. I'd much rather hire one A player than 10 C players. And if I'm hiring B players, I want to hire them so I can turn them into A players. And you turn them into A players by working and focusing on them. And so it's a good definition by Derek. I knew you were going to answer it that way. That is the key. When he asks, who do you work for? It's a good question. We automatically think it very technically. Well, I work for this person or this person. But what is your daily efforts about if you think of it on a work level? And if my daily efforts are about helping those that I've hired, the team, if you're the CEO, it's your executive team, whoever it is that's working right underneath you, reporting to you, if your daily efforts to help them succeed, you're going to attract the top talent because that's what they want. And you'll find out that it also makes them more malleable. And I say that very clearly because if your goal is to help them succeed and help them achieve their goals, then it's easier to teach them and to train them things. It's easier to help them accomplish more work for your business. So I mentioned this a lot of times because it's what I want everybody to think of. You need to get your whole company aligned with focusing on revenue producing activities. Too often we can burn away a lot of cash because we're just kind of passing time. And you've got to get people out of that mentality, and the mentality needs to be a production mentality. And so production is what needs to be rewarded. Production is what needs to be focused on. Production is what your whole culture needs to center around, but in a positive way, not in a negative way. Not like we're a taskmaster just cracking the whip, but more letting know what the goals are. So I'll tell you a quick story. When I was about 20 years ago, I was doing a project up in northern Utah, and we were doing the pipe work outside a grocery store, and I was running the team. And my way of thinking is I try to analyze everything. I try to collect all the data I can. I try to use that data to motivate my team. And so we were doing pipeline work. We're installing sewer water, storm drain, all that kind of pipe. And I would do as detailed as I was timing each length they're putting in. We're putting in sewer length or sewer line system throughout the parking lot. And I would say, okay, that length took us 13 minutes. Can we get down to 10? Can we get down to 9? and motivate the team. At the end of the day, I would tell them, here's what we accomplished today. We put in 500 feet of pipe today. We accomplished this much. We installed this many manholes. And this is what I mean when I say keep score is top talent wants to know what they achieved and how that compares. And so you say, okay, we achieved this much work in this day, and good hell, that's a great job. I mean, that is above and beyond what we expected. That's above and beyond what standard work procedures are. That helps people be motivated. And in this particular case, we installed sewer line on the project, and we got it done in 2 days. And I called the surveyor and I said, hey, I need staking for the water line. And he said, we just barely gave you staking for the sewer line. I said, I know it's done. And he didn't even believe me. He had to come out to the job site to verify that it was done. But it's because you're motivating it. And then the second thing I want to emphasize on this particular project, I was motivating my top talent that was working with me to succeed. The second thing I want to emphasize is I was doing exactly what Derek said earlier about removing obstacles. So instead of just doing the kind of work I want to do, like at the time, I really loved to operate a track hole. I could operate a track all day long and really enjoy myself. It's just a pleasure to me. But instead, I identified that what the job needed the most was for me to remove the obstacles that were in front of the crew so the crew could succeed. Get those obstacles out of the way, whatever the problem is, whether you're lining up materials, whether you're getting decisions made ahead of time, whatever the case is, this is what management should be doing, whatever level you are. If you're the management level directly on the job site, you're doing that for the job site. If you're the management level in the office, you're doing that for the office. If you're the leader, if you're the president, the CEO, whatever your title is, you should be doing that for your company. You're trying to remove obstacles so that you can keep that momentum going and get people in a strong workflow process. And I'm telling you, if you create that kind of culture and environment, not only will you see a lot more profitability, but you'll find out the top talent wants to come work for you. And then as you do that, remember to learn to trust your own data. And this is kind of transitioning into our bonus system, but too often we'll say, well, what's so-and-so paying your guys, or what's so-and-so paying your guys, or what's everybody paying, or what are we charging? Learn to trust your own data. If you have a good data collection system and you're able to track your time, the time it takes to accomplish a task, you're able to track the materials that go into the task, and you're able to track what revenue comes out of it, you're starting to track your data. And if you're making good money, and you should, if you have top talent working around you and you get a mentality of removing their obstacles and you start making good money, don't be afraid to pay them good money. And I'll shift just a minute on pay. And I want to emphasize this. Pay is not the only thing that matters. Pay matters up to the point that people survive. In other words, if I've got to make, say, 75,000 a year, or 50,000 a year, or 30,000 a year, whatever the number is, in order to feed my family and take care of my family, pay really matters heavy up to that point. When it gets beyond that point, it's not that it doesn't matter, it matters. But just remember that workplace satisfaction starts to matter a lot more. So when you get up into the top talent people that want to, they know they can make enough money to survive no matter where they go. They can make enough money to feed their family no matter where they go. So the differentiators start being more important and more unique. And that's where I would say you start considering things like every human being, and this is the construction industry too, every human being craves three things emotionally. They crave approval, acceptance, and appreciation. And part of that is that feedback that I'm talking about. You start letting them know you are killing it. You're doing a great job. You are amazing. And we're so glad we hired you, whatever the case is. And I'm not talking about just, blowing smoke up there, blowing smoke up them. But I'm talking about genuine, real praise. When someone's doing a good job, tell them they're doing a good job. Let them know they're doing a good job. They crave that. They want to hear that. They want to know that. And that'll help them want to do a good job more and more and more. The crew that I was talking about that I had such a high production rate with at this time, they loved it. I mean, it was a game. We turned it into a game. It was just a game. How much could we achieve? How much could we do each day? Could we beat the day before? And it was great. When you start doing those kind of things, you can start making a lot more money with the crew that you have and the work that you're doing. Then you can start paying a little better. And I'll throw out something that I think is a big deal. And that is start thinking about their home life. And I know this sounds really weird, but I want you to think about this one. Start thinking about their home life. And I don't mean interfere with it. I would never suggest such a thing. But start thinking about, is there, if you're hiring, then what do we have? 93% of the construction workforce are men. Okay. So if you have a man working for you, is his wife happy that he works for you? Is she happy that he works for you? Does she feel like that's an awesome thing? Because whenever they make a decision, if he ends up going and working for someone else, it's going to be a decision between them two if he's going to stay or go. And so what makes his wife happy? What makes the family happy? You can start doing things. You can start taking care of your people, start doing a little bit of swag, throw Christmas parties, do different appreciations. Even in some cases, I would even recommend, send people on vacation once in a while, pay for a vacation for them and their spouse to go take some time off and actually do something and enjoy something. And that's what I mean about thinking of their home life. It's not that you want to interfere, but you might want to help them have some privileges that they don't normally have. You take for example, the idea of sending someone on vacation. I'll tell you why it's so important. As a culture and as men, we want to be providers. We want to protect our family. We want to provide for our family. We almost feel guilty to ever do something for ourselves. Okay. So if the company sends me on vacation and says, hey, we're going to pay for you and your wife to go on vacation, there's no guilt attached because I know that the company paid for this. And it's because I'm such a high producer. I'm achieving great. And they might send me on a cruise. And honestly, cruise is not that expensive. So they might send me on a cruise. They might send the whole team on a cruise. They might send us to some small place over the weekend, whatever the case is. But the point is that when you do something like this, you involve the family at home, you involve the wife. You might even give other bonuses that have more impact on the family. If they have kids, you might find other type of bonuses, but just think of how much you're impacting their home life, because what you're trying to do is drive that team member, that team feeling and that loyalty beyond your employee right to the home, so that you want the wife and the kids to all think you're the best company that their dad or their husband could ever work for because you take such good care of them.
Can I jump in here, Isaac? Couple of really just specific examples that I do here with our team. So here at BusyBusy, I'm in charge of client success, customer support, sales, and marketing. And so everything that ties to the revenue side of things. And so everybody on that group, we had my director of client success. She had surgery a couple months ago. So we made sure and had a gift basket waiting for her when she got home from that surgery. When we have an employee who calls in sick, we have somebody who will take over soup and breadsticks and different things like that. We have an employee right now who his wife has a situation, a health situation. And so we hired a cleaning service to go over there once every 2 weeks to help them out for the next 4 to 6 months as she's working through what she's got going on. Trying to think of a couple other examples. Oh, we had 2 employees who had babies this year, and we made sure and had baby gifts, not for the person working for us. Both of these happen to be men. But for the wife and the baby. And because it is important, it is something we talk a lot about this with our leadership group, is it's important to us that the spouse, either like my director of client success, her husband was so appreciative that we had that waiting for her. Same thing with the babies, where the wives were so appreciative that they had gifts waiting for them. We want the spouse to not just support where they work. We want them to love that their spouse works at BusyBusy.
That's right. That is the key right there. You want them to love it. And that starts creating your culture. Your culture is a team culture, and it goes into the family, where you want their spouse to love that they work there. You want their kids to love that they work there. And then I want to give you, what I consider one of the most important parts of a culture, and that's respect. Now, all these things point to respect that we've been talking about, but that's respect. Make sure that when they work for you, they have a respectable position. If I'm a dad and I leave my kids and I go to work, and my whole point is providing for my family, I need to feel that that's a respected position. My kids need to feel that they need to, too long we've kind of, as a society, we've denigrated the trades. We've said, like, being a tradesman, oh, is that because you couldn't do something better? Well, no, that's not true. Craftsmen and people who are good at their work, they need to be respected and admired because they do amazing work. And honestly, a lot of times they can make more money than people who have college degrees. And there are certain certifications and degrees that you can get in construction too, but make it a respected position because it should be. And in my opinion, it is. It's a respected position. I think that people who go out and work and labor and sweat and, really work hard to take care of their families, to me, they're the salt of the earth. I love those kind of people. They are good people. They're good, honest, hardworking people. And they're the people I like to be around. So what Derek was talking about, what we do for people, this hits that appreciation point. And I just put it on the chat, approval, acceptance, and appreciation. Think of those three things as you're building your culture. That's what people crave. And it's great. And it's amazing as you start building this culture, it starts to create just a better environment. And I want to talk about respect for a minute. So as the CEO of BusyBusy, I'm the CEO. When there's decisions to be made that matter at my level, then I have to make them, right? When Derek's making decisions on his department, he makes them. And if he needs advice or help, he comes to me and we talk about it, right? So, and the point I want to get at here is, what does it mean to be the CEO or the president or the boss, whatever position you're at? So we provide lunches every day at BusyBusy for our team, and we have a break room and a snack room. And so one of the early days, years ago, I wander into the break room and there's our line of people in line to get food. And as I walk in, everybody's like, "Oh, you get in the front of the line, you're the CEO." I said, no, don't make me feel stupid. Like, I'm not the CEO in the break room. And that's an important statement I want to make. I think this is real important to your culture. Don't be the CEO, don't be the boss when you shouldn't be, because too often times we can get full of ourselves and think, "Oh, I'm the boss, I should be the boss in whatever environment I'm in." That creates a crappy culture. You want to be the boss when it matters, when those decisions matter and when they're important, and when you should make those decisions. But best way I can say it, I'm not the CEO in the break room. It makes it to where that you create kind of this parent-child relationship with your team, where it's like, I'm the parent, I can get mad and yell at you and abuse you. All of that is a toxic culture. You need to create a culture of respect. Yes, you're the boss, you're the one in charge. Certainly, there's a respect to go along with that, but don't make it the kind of awkward thing that makes them feel disrespected or put down or subservient in regards to the way you run your culture. Top talent, again, won't go there. I would never work for a company that treated me like that,
And I think another way to say it is, in your organization, do titles matter?
Yep.
And if they do, why? Why do they matter? And when do they matter? Like, I was just speaking to, we have a neighboring software company. I mentioned that Isaac is in charge of a $2.5 billion project, and it's being built out right now. And the software company that's right across from us, there's a bunch of construction over there. And the CEO of that organization stood up and was talking to the employees and reminded them, be respectful of where you're parking, don't park on the road. And he was talking about different places that they should park and they shouldn't. And his chief revenue officer at that organization jumped in and said, "Hey, have any of you ever noticed where Clint parks?" And everybody kind of went quiet and they were thinking about it. And someone said, "Yeah, he's always in the back." And the chief revenue officer said, "Yeah, Clint parks in the back on purpose. I don't know if you guys realize that. He's usually here earlier than everybody else, but he always parks in the very back of the parking lot. And the reason he does it is because he wants you to have the better parking. It's not a big deal for him to walk." And it's those types of things. The employee who was telling me this, it wasn't the CEO and it wasn't the chief revenue officer, the two in the conversation. It was an employee who's only worked there for 60 days. But as he was telling me this, as we were chatting last week, the amount of loyalty that conversation brought in the realization of going, "Oh yeah, he's not the CEO in the parking lot. The title doesn't matter there. What matters is a level of appreciation. Where can you find opportunities to give appreciation?"
Yep, that's right. And it drives that core of respect in your organization. People want to feel like they're, their peers, not subservience. So as we move on to the bonus system, and again, the foundation of good culture is respect. It's trust and respect. If they trust you and they respect you, and you respect them, That's the foundation of a good organization. And I guess I'll emphasize that just one more. What matters for trust? The way we look at trust is we call it the culture of consideration, and trust is the foundation. What do you need to trust? I'll give BusyBusy as an example. Who are our stakeholders? And stakeholders in any organization, it's not shareholders, it's stakeholders. Who has a stake in your success? So the stakeholders in the success of BusyBusy are our customers, our team members, our employees, but I like to call them team members, our vendors or our partners, and our owners. Those four people, those four groups of people. Okay. The trust that people need to have of your organization is that when you make a decision, you're making it with consideration of all of the stakeholders. So that's not just, oh, this is what the owner wants, that's what we're doing. Yes, that can be true, but was consideration given to how that'll impact the employees? Was consideration given to how that'll impact the customers? And so that's the trust that needs to happen. They need to, in essence, they need to trust that you have their back. So, and that builds a good culture for you. Getting into the bonus system for your crews, I started touching on that, on thinking outside the box a little bit on your bonuses, where you can do something that has greater impact on their life, more at the personal level. Don't think that I mean that you shouldn't give them financial bonuses. I do. I'm just saying, don't forget the power of giving them something that they wouldn't give themselves out of guilt or whatever the case is, that can have a more long-lasting impact. I mentioned a cruise. A really nice cruise could cost, let's say, somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. If I give a guy a bonus that's $3,000 to $5,000 for doing a great job on a job site, it goes home, it goes into the bank account, it starts to pay bills or whatever the case is, and he doesn't think about it that much. It was great, it was appreciative, but what impact did it really have that was memorable? Where if I send him on a cruise or send him to some sort of destination that's awesome, send him on something that really benefits him and his wife, or him and his wife and his kids, that has a long-lasting impact. They'll think about that for years. And so I just want you to know that those are important things. Swag is important. Think of team branding, again, using the sports analogy. If you're a certain sports fan, whatever the case is, you love their swag, right? You're loyal. You wear their hats, you wear their coats, their jackets, you wear their swag. Getting your company swag is good. Having Christmas parties that you give out that swag, and giving out hats and shirts and jackets and all these things, it's actually really cheap in the overall scheme of things. And all those things build that loyalty, that trust, and that appreciation that we've been talking about. But when you're doing all this, it helps you to get the other things done that you need to do to make you a lot more money. So I'm sure everyone's heard the statement here: nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. No one cares what you know until they know that you care. So when you're showing all these things that show approval and acceptance and appreciation for your team, and you start talking to them about focusing on revenue producing activities, look, I need to make sure that your time is focused on these things. Here's the items that we bid on the project. I really need these items done. Everything else takes away from revenue. Yes, I know there's things that need to be done, but let's try to systemize everything possible that doesn't produce revenue. Let's try to keep everyone's focus on revenue producing activities. Well, when you're taking care of your team, they're starting to listen a lot more because they know that you care. And so they start to care more about the things that you know. And so when you're developing that culture and that bonus system, think of those things. To give you more particulars about bonuses, it's real simple. Bonusing people is real simple. A good friend of mine, Paul Campbell, who is one of the owners of Wheeler Machinery, a local Caterpillar dealer in the state of Utah. He says, he's talking about salespeople. He says, salesmen don't do what you tell them to do, they do what you pay them to do. And it's a pretty good statement. And what he means is, if you're going to ask people to perform, make sure your incentives, make sure your pay ties to that performance. So whether you have a base pay with bonuses or something else, make sure that there is some way that they win when you win, like Derek pointed out to earlier. If I get people focused on revenue producing activities so that they can make the company more money so that I can afford to give them bonuses, then when I win, they win. Now, this is why I emphasize systems so much in the beginning. If you start giving out bonuses and you really don't know what you're doing, you can't afford to give the bonuses, you don't even know how much money you're making, that can be a disaster. But if you can track your jobs well enough, you can track the profitability of your jobs, you can track your labor like incentivize, give bonuses that help people, give bonuses they can control. So I'll give you an example. If I'm the product manager, if I'm the project manager, I'm sorry, if I'm the project manager on a job site, what's under my control? I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to assume is under my control. It's the labor. I'm not saying that I won't waste materials, but I can't control if material prices increase. I can't control many aspects of my job site, but what I can control is how long it takes to have the labor to do the work that's needed to be done. So if you give me a labor budget, I want to know how many man hours, if I've got a crew of 5 men or whatever the case is, how many man hours do I have to do this job? What's my expectations on a standard? And then if I exceed that, let's say I get it done in 75% of the time. That's a number I can control. That's hours I can control. Yes, you've got to tie in and make sure that things are done to spec and to quality, and make sure you have your QC in order. But that's what I can control. That's what you should bonus me on. Make sure your incentives are tied to things people can control. Don't tie incentives to things that they cannot control, because all that'll do is create frustration. I can go work my heart out, and then you say, oh yeah, well, I know you worked your heart out, but really material costs went up, and so we lost money on the job, and I know you kicked butt, but I can't pay any money. What you did is just completely demotivated me for something that you should have figured out yourself. Like those problems are not my problems. When I'm on the job site and I'm running the crew that's getting the work done, make sure that you tie my incentives to what I can control. You have any comment on that, Derek?
No, it's well said. As you were talking about it, the thing that I was thinking is you were saying, hey, you want to increase speed, but make sure that it's done well. It's ultimately the quality of the work that's done and the speed that it's done. So if you're combining that into efficiency metric, that's what we try to balance everything here is how efficient are you being? What's the customer experience look like? How reliable is the product that's being delivered? It's the reason, like with BusyBusy, for example, we do 100% money back guarantee for 90 days. And the reason is because it perfectly aligns all behavior inside the organization. It makes it to where sales reps don't try to sell the product. They spend time with a customer trying to make sure it's a good fit. Marketing doesn't try to generate a ton of leads. They try to make sure that the leads that are generated are people who would be a good fit for the product that would be built. And development doesn't try to build something that they think is cool. They try to build something that the customer will love, because everybody's aligned in knowing that if we all do these things well with good speed and good quality, then our efficiency score goes up, which results in our clients being more successful. And if they're more successful, we naturally are successful as well, but we don't succeed without them. So I think you can tie the same thing into a job site when you look at it and say, how can you grab the speed and the quality and merge these different metrics to align the entire organization to say, oh yeah, here's our key performance indicators, here's our KPIs that let us know that this project went well.
Yeah, that's a good point. You have to have those metrics so that they can see or have that feedback on if it's going well. So before we jump on to the next topic, I know we have a few more topics to cover and we're running a little bit short on time. I want to mention we often look at revenue producing activities, and sometimes the office can be left out of this. I'm sure we have a lot of office administration online and a lot of estimators online, but I want to make sure that you think about that side of it too. The revenue producing activities can be, you can apply that same logic to your office and your administration. An example is estimating and deal making. I used to always say, just as an analogy on my job site, I would say half the money is made on production, half the money is made on the deal making, how you made the deal. And a lot of you with experience will understand that, but make sure that your office administration is also, that their incentives are tied to the things they can control and that help you make more money. And what do I mean by that? Well, what is a successful administrator? I think you have a lot of administrators online, so I'm going to tell you, if you're working for me, What I need is the information in the business that I need to see to make the right decisions. So I want you to gather the information that is accurate. I want to know that the decisions I'm making are accurate, that you're helping me make those better deals. That's what your incentive should be based around. And systemizing. Make sure that your administration is incentivized around creating a well-oiled machine, a systemized business that can grow. We've got growth here on the titles. In my opinion, and it's definitely just an opinion, everybody has their own opinion. I don't think you should grow until your systems are dialed in. I think you should dial in your systems before you try to grow, because what can happen is you can grow the wrong direction, you can lose money. So as an example, and this happens all the time, I can be making 20% profit on some jobs, and I can be losing 15% on other jobs. And so as a company, I'm making 5% profit on my jobs. And so I think I'm doing well. You know, we did 10 million in business this year, and we made 500,000. Yay, I'm doing great. What can happen is if I don't have that information that I need to know which direction to grow, I can accidentally grow in the direction of the 15% losses, and pretty soon I'll put my company under the ground, because I'll start growing in the direction where you're not making money. This is how offices and administration should be incentivized. With your bonuses, what can they control? They can control the information that is coming back to me, to the estimator, to the company, your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your job costing, even how you're managing your production rates. What time does it take to produce specific tasks? This is what your administration needs to be incentivized around, because they're giving you the information, the business intelligence, if you will, to make those better decisions. That ties into one of our topics, which is whether or not a new hire is needed. And I'll just continue right on with that. I know a lot of us in the construction industry, we're almost addicted to getting jobs. We just want to make deals, and we're addicted to deal making. Like, we want to do more jobs, more jobs, more jobs. But here's what I would like to drive home with this is, just consider this. You're a better company and a stronger company if you're a $10 million company making 10% profit than a $20 million company making 5% profit. Why is that? Why would I say you're a better company? Because I could have people argue, and I know everybody's got their opinions. And someone could say, well, if I've got a $20 million company, I'm doing more leverage. Yes, you are. You're doing more work, and you have more headache and all kinds of things. But if I'm doing $10 million a year and I'm making 10% profit, I'm making just as much profit at the end of the day as your $20 million company that's doing 5% profit. And if I decide to grow and my systems are in order, you can bet I will start beating out, I will start winning the jobs that the other companies are doing with the lower profit margins. And so my recommendation is just grow your profit before you grow your team. I'm not trying to advocate that people don't hire, and I understand where we're at right now. I'm just saying that, don't try to make more of something that's not being successful. Try to get it as optimized as you possibly can, and then grow it. Duplicate. Get focused. We talked about earlier, focus on making people successful. Focus on a crew. Focus on team members, whatever the case is. Focus on someone and train them into the point that they are successful, and then duplicate that. Make sure you're duplicating success. Don't just grow chaos, because that does not help anybody.
Real quick example on that, Isaac. We had a new team that we built. It'll be 2 years in July, and Isaac focused on hiring top talent. I hired a kid, and we hired him with vision. He took a step back in a role that he had in another organization to come here. And the reason was because of what we were going to create, not what was there for him. So he came in, and I explained to him that I was going to spend 2 to 3 months with him, making sure that he was very, very, very successful, so that then we could hire 2 people to make sure that they did exactly what he was doing, because I want to duplicate him, but I needed him to be successful first. And the plan was, as soon as we duplicated him with those 2 hires, then we would bring in 4 more. And so it was an entire system that was built to scale. We've got 12 people now doing that exact role that one individual was hired to do 21 months ago, because we continue to duplicate him, but he proved it first. And then we brought 2 people on, and we've continued to scale that way. So duplication is definitely part of a system that allows you to hire and hire in a way that is scalable.
Thank you. It's a great example. So to go back, talk about developing, I just want to kind of re-hit these points. We talked about how to attract qualified talent. What I'm advocating is you develop your systems and culture, and that'll help you attract your qualified talent. And in developing that culture, make sure you show approval, acceptance, and appreciation. And it doesn't have to be expensive. I tell you, in our excavation company, we started throwing pizza parties when we finished a phase. I mean, we just simply would celebrate the phase that we were finishing. And we're talking about multi-million-dollar phase by buying pizza for the crew and drinks and just sitting and then going and visiting the crew on site. You'd be surprised how much that'll do for people, because it lets them know you care. And again, that's the real key, is you're letting them know that you actually care about them and that you notice them and that you care. So when we're talking about how to attract qualified talent, especially in a market like this, just remember this. And I'm going to tell you a story to connect with this. We had a company in our excavation company. We hired an employee that worked for another company prior to us. And we started doing these little things, just little things that we're letting them know that we care, that we took care of them, that we appreciate them. And they were great. They actually did a great job. And then pretty soon we got a couple more applications from another couple of people from that same company. And we hired them, and they were really good employees also, and they did a great job. Well, what ended up happening is the owner of that company got really upset and yelled at his team in an all hands meeting, and basically berated them and said, these guys that went over to this other company think they're happy, they're not happy. They're going to come crawling back to me on their hands and knees begging for their job. And so what he was doing was trying to instill fear into his employees to get them to stay, like trying to make them be afraid of going somewhere else to get them to stay. Well, that doesn't work, and especially in today's market. And so literally the next week, we got 10 more applications from the same company, from employees that worked at the same company. And it was because basically what he did is he advertised for us. He said, they think they're happy over there, they're not happy. And a whole bunch of his team members heard, oh, they're happy? Like, I want to be happy. I want to like where I'm working. And so you really need to think about that. In today's world, top talent, if they're good at what they can do, they can work anywhere. They can work anywhere. They can go anywhere. They can get a job anywhere. So you've got to create that culture that makes them want to be there. And and then bonus systems, again, tie your bonus systems to what you want accomplished. Make sure it's tied to what you want accomplished and things that the people can control. If they can't control it, you're just going to make them frustrated, because they'll have other things that are out of their control take their bonuses, and it'll backfire. It won't end up being a good system, because it'll just make them feel, when you hope you're going to get something, then you don't get it, and it wasn't anything you did or nothing you can control. Developing a healthy culture. I'm going to hit again, on the same bonuses and culture. Do things in your company, excuse me, that create that loyalty. Excuse me one second. Things in your company that create that loyalty with your employees and their spouses, because that will matter, and it matters a ton. Do things that reach beyond them, right into their home, of things that show appreciation and that create loyalty. I'm, again, definitely not recommending that you try to interfere by any means in their family, but do things that pass through, that make their spouse and their children think you're the best company in the world. And by the way, you send swag home, and kids will see that swag, and they'll like it, and they'll start creating loyalty. When my dad worked as a construction company when I grew up, it was Harper Excavating up in Salt Lake. I would always see Harper Excavating swag, and as a little kid, I thought, wow, I want to work there when I grow up. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that you are having people that want to work there. And then on growing your company, on making sure that you know how to grow your company or when to grow your company, I would advocate that you make sure that you understand where you're making money and where you're not making money. Duplicate success. Be careful not to duplicate failure. That might seem like common sense, but it's harder said than done. You've got to make sure that people are actually understanding and knowing what they're doing, and that your estimators understand which jobs are making money. And again, it's all about data. At the end of the day, it's all about data. So as a parting comment I want to make, BusyBusy focuses on the success of contractors. We've studied success and we've studied failure. What we found out is that that failure comes from not having the proper data to make good and profitable decisions. And this is what I'm telling you that your administration staff should be focused on. Make sure that you have the proper data to make good decisions, including your estimators. And your estimators, you might be giving them crap data, crap in, crap out. If you've got estimators that are relying on your data, and if you've got estimators that are relying on your data, and you've got people in the field that are just putting their hours or their time or whatever the case is in just whatever budget has room. In other words, whatever task, whatever portion of the job has room, instead of where it actually goes, you're not feeding back the intelligence that the estimator needs. The estimator needs to know when they're wrong. They need to know when they're wrong. Your company goes over budget, they need to know. And so I would make a high recommendation that instead of just making sure everybody stays within budget, because all you'll do is incentivize them to move hours around to make sure it stays within budget. Try to create incentive systems that incentivize good data. Try to make sure that you say, listen, the most important thing to me is that you track your data accurately, because then I can make better decisions. I can pass that information on to the estimator. They can make better decisions. Administration can make better decisions. That's what you need. So create a culture that produces data. Any other thoughts there, Derek? I'm trying to wrap it up and tie it together there.
No, let's jump into a couple questions. We've got a handful that have already come in, and then for those of you who have been waiting for your questions at the end, if you want to send those in now, I want to get to some of these questions because there's been some good ones that have come in. Okay. So one of the questions that was asked was, what KPIs help indicate when to hire?
Well, that's a fantastic question. What KPIs help indicate when to hire? I would say primarily when you are managing your profitability and the jobs that you're the most profitable at are what you have the most opportunity for on your table. So when you know you're profitable at certain types of work, certain tasks, and certain types of jobs, and you're seeing more of that come across your plate, that indicates that you need to hire.
I think another good indicator is if you, like, for example, our software, you can track time with our software, incredibly accurate. You can also track the progress of a job. And when you can see the efficiency per employee or per crew. And if you see an efficiency, for example, like if you're a concrete company and your 4-person crew does 100 yards of concrete a day, but your 6-person crew does 200 yards of concrete a day, then you understand if that's consistent across the board and you've got 8 crews, 4 of them are 4-man crews and 4 of them are 6-man crews, and the 6-man are constantly doing double the work, then you understand that by adding 50% more employees to those other crews, you can get 100% more work done. So understanding the efficiency per type of work that you're doing is important. Also, understanding if there's certain jobs where you've got opportunity cost because you're butting up against another job, and so you're having to spread employees out where you're losing efficiency because now your 6-person crew is 2 3-person crews because you're trying to keep those GCs or customers happy, and so you're splitting people up in a way that you're going, like, those are good indicators. When you're sacrificing efficiency to make a customer happy, that's a really good place to start.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. What other questions do you have?
Another question here is what you mentioned. Sorry, I'm just trying to read through a couple different ones here. One of them is you mentioned a bonus structure and you talked about how that is done. Is there a certain percentage that you have seen worked best as far as a pool that is shared? And do you do those bonuses managed by supervisors or foremen per job? Can you speak more to the bonus structure and how you've done it in the past and seen others do it well?
Yes. My way I would do the bonus structure is I would do it based on a crew. Again, I focus bonuses on what people can control. And I would bonus the crew, probably pretty heavy on the supervisor because that's who drives the crew, but also make sure that the entire crew gets bonuses and kind of drive that connection with the crew and the supervisor. It's your bonus. And again, I would tie the bonuses when I say revenue producing activities, I'm saying like you give a bid and you have the items on your bid sheet. That's where those bonuses should tie to. When they talk about percentages, I don't know if they're talking about percentages of the people's income or whatever the case may be. But personally, my feeling personally is I like to see my people have the opportunity to make up to 25% more on top of their base pay if they're achieving great success in the work they're doing. And so I like to see those bonuses be able to get them an additional 25%.
Gotcha. Okay. There are a lot of other questions. We're at exactly an hour. Want to be respectful of people's time. I'm going to have one of our people here take the time to send some emails out to those of you who send additional questions in that we didn't get a chance to answer. If they're questions that need to be answered by Isaac, then we'll have someone get those questions gathered up and deliver them over to him so we can get those answers over directly to you. And thank you so much for attending. We appreciate the audience, the questions, the engagement. Hopefully it's a topic that's able to help everybody as you all wish you all the best success in continuing to grow a great business.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending. We really appreciate it.